the Ironville Classic prep. This week was my top week, so I'm going into a deload next week. So this week percentages were up pretty high. I was trying to create some fatigue and push those recovery levels just so I could get a pretty strong stimulus out of that and go into the deload week needing a deload so that I will rest and recover, get kind of a super compensation effect, and then start training in reps for the next 9 weeks for this prep. So it went really well. I'm really excited about how everything moved, and the numbers I was putting up are right where I wanted them to be. So I'm just getting excited, and let's go through some workouts. All right, so I started my week with squats. I only have one video from this session, and that's my double at 525. That was my top set. I moved on to 3 sets of 2 at 485 afterwards in sleeves. All moved really well. I'm really excited with how things are progressing here. This was my heaviest squat in probably 5 months, so I'm really excited. And then I benched on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I didn't get any videos of my bench. I was kind of just enjoying a training session. Had a couple friends in here training with me that day, and just honestly completely forgot the video, and I was just enjoying my session. I hit a pretty easy single at 335 on bench, and then I dropped down to do some sets of 2, and they were programmed at 305, but 305 moved super easy. So on every set, I just added 5 pounds, and I ended with my last set at 315 for 2 paused reps, moved really well. I actually adjusted my grip a little bit on bench, and it seems to be really helping me. Before, I was a pretty wide grip bencher, and now I'm bringing my pinkies inside the rings and relying on my stronger triceps to get my bench up. So it's moving really good. My shoulders are feeling healthy. My elbows are feeling healthy. So I'm going to keep riding that out and hopefully get some bigger bench numbers in the next couple weeks. So moving on to Thursday, this is my secondary squat day and main deadlift day. So before deadlifts, I hit some paused high bar squats. So that was 405 for 3 sets of 2. Really easy, served as a good warm up for deadlifts. And then I moved on to deadlifts, where my top double was 605 on this day. So moved really well. Setup wasn't feeling the best. My technique felt a little off this day. I was having some tightness in my hips, but I've got that worked out, and I think next week will be much better. So coming back after the deload. So I hit 605 for 2, and then 3 sets of 2 at 565. And then moving on to my last day of the week. So this was my secondary bench day. So I did 3 sets of 4 paused close grip presses at 285. Each set felt like it moved better than the last one, so I was really happy with how that went. And then with some accessories. And I put this video in here kind of to show because it's one of my favorite accessory movements for bench and deadlift, but also because it just shows some intensity that a lot of my main work is percentage based and pretty submaximal, but just to show that I still do train with some intensity and get that work in the accessory movements. So this was 315 for I think 14 reps on pendlay rows. So a little bit more about those pendlay rows. So those are a great accessory that I like for my bench as well as my deadlift. The way I do them is I line up in my conventional deadlift stance with my conventional deadlift grip. I get wedged into the bar by tightening my lats down and getting thoracic extension. And then I drive off the floor with my elbows and really depress and retract that scapula, really focusing on getting those lats firing up. I've noticed that's helped strengthen my lats for not only for deadlift, because I'm in that same position, it's kind of a specific movement, but also for bench because I'm doing the same thing in bench as I'm externally rotating and depressing that scapula to get those lats firing up to create a more stable base on bench. Some people will argue about torso position. As you could probably tell in the video, I wasn't perfectly parallel to the ground with my torso. I don't think that that's necessarily wrong, just because, for one, in a conventional deadlift, when you're trying to do something for sport specificity, in a conventional deadlift, I don't know of anyone that starts with their torso parallel to the ground in the starting position. If they do, they're in the wrong position. So I like to train it that way. I've gotten good results out of that, and it allows you to really be more specific to the movements that you're trying to do in competition. It's just a great movement. And then another thought on intensity, as I talked about training with intensity. So as you saw in this video, I went to failure. That was as many reps as I could do. I think it was 14 reps with 315, exploding off the ground and then trying to slow the eccentric to get a little more muscle damage, hypertrophy, strength, etc. on the end of that movement. But you have to choose your intensity wisely when you're programming, especially when you have a goal in mind. If you don't have a goal in mind and you could deload whenever you want and you don't have a plan going into a competition of some sort, you can be a little more free if you train by feel, as some people say. But when you are training with a goal in mind, you have to be really particular about where you can let loose and where you can train with those high intensities. So this was a day that I knew that movement, I wasn't at a high risk of injury. I've done that movement hundreds of times, and I know that I'm safe in that movement. I've never felt a twinge or anything like that, so I knew I was able to push it. It was also the last day of training before a deload. So I know I'm going to have a week of lighter workouts where I'm going to eliminate some of that fatigue that I'm carrying from the past few weeks. So I'm able to push that intensity on those days. The last couple weeks doing that movement, I didn't go to failure. I stayed at 315 and went 3 sets of 8 or 3 sets of 5 to where it's not killing me and I'm not pushing that, driving that fatigue up with going to failure. So it's just keep in mind of what your goal is with your training program, where you can put in those intensity techniques and where you can go to failure on stuff, just because I know that's fun. That is my favorite part of training. That's why I loved bodybuilding for so long and why I love squatting heavy maxes. But you just can't do that stuff every week and still expect to progress the way you want to. So keep that in mind with your training. Train smart. Put some thought into your program every time you're in the gym. Stay healthy, and let's get some good results. But this was the wrap up. Training went really great. Like I said, I'm going into a deload next week, so it won't be a very exciting video, but I will show you guys what I'm doing and explain to you why I'm doing it. So thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you next week.